Hello and welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today we are talking about Imperial Spells and Steam, which is currently on Kickstarter and I believe has
like 8 hours remaining.
Maybe
$4,000
less
left.
when you're watching this. At the time of filming this, it is $4,000 or $5,000 away from passing its funding goal. And
I'm here to ask the question.
Yeah, if you just
should I back it?
If you just remembered that it existed and it's been on your list, maybe you should swing over there and give it a look and help them get access to what they're doing.
Yeah. So, I'm someone never played Imperial Spells and Steam.
I mean, hello someone, but you're not someone.
Oh,
You happen to be Max.
Hi, I'm Max from Table Knots. Thank you for being in my studio.
The Table Knots studio. That's why the production quality is slightly lower than average.
Lower than you could have said lower than mine, not lower than average.
If you're familiar with Quackalope, you will have over the last year or so seen Max join me in the Quackalope studio, which is now located in Maryland.
Haven't been there though.
Back down here in Kentucky, filming some videos with him in his subpar environment. But I'm thrilled to but I'm moderately I'm content being here for the moment. And you walked in.
Me too.
You walked in about an hour ago as we were filming some other videos, and you said, Jesse, are you familiar with Imperial?
That's right, I did.
And I said, why, yes, I am. I have a copy. I've played a copy. What do you want to know?
And I said,
you said,
it's so close to funding.
Should I back it?
It ends in 12 hours. Do I need to spend my money on this?
Yeah.
And you said, I'll tell you in an hour when we make a video about it, and I'm not going to tell you a single thing about it until I make that video.
That is about accurate.
That's kind of what happened. Yeah.
So Imperial is a game that is coming from a studio that is known for insane production quality.
Yes. Level 99 games.
Broken token inserts, beautiful artwork, high quality, and that's the first thing.
World building.
That's the first thing that I'm going to say outside of all the context with the mechanics of the game. Level 99 is known for innovative mechanic systems. Fairly messy games to some degree that have way too many expansions, but the production quality is what you expect from a Kickstarter company. They make top-notch products, and when Imperial first came out, this is basically a reprint with a mini expansion.
It only came out last year, right?
When it first came out, it was hard to get its hands on, and so this may be another one of those instances where the reprint, the distribution through Kickstarter, and when people remember what exactly this game is,
better get in.
I would not be surprised if in a year or two you're once again saying, I kind of wish I picked up a copy. The production quality alone and the Kickstarter exclusivity to some degree, it's not exclusive, but it is to some degree.
Sure.
That nature will make this, as Alex Radcliffe would say, probably a fairly safe back.
Right.
In my sense. Although, watch Alex's video because he'll actually tell you the facts. Not just...
We're just, spitballing here.
Spin hyperboles. I don't think that's what a
just
hyperbole
like a
is.
duck.
Whatever the case, let's talk about the game. Now, I don't have a copy of the game in front of me. That's up in Maryland. I have played it. I just happened to be on the road, and this was a perfect opportunity to have the conversation. So, Imperial. This game is going to be an interesting combination. You're going to have a big central map where you're building out different train routes and train tracks.
Okay.
Those are going to be connected to...
Ticket to Ride.
No.
Okay, good.
No. Those are going to be connected to various resources on the map. Now, the interesting thing about your train pathways or your programming is, as you extend them, they have to connect to other train routes you have.
Okay.
However, there's the ability to hop, jump, connect through other train routes.
Because it's like a fantasy
It's
thing,
a magical train system. And so any route that you've been able to legally start then becomes connected to your main routing system.
So just on the basics, is this a route building or a pick up and deliver?
It is a route building game where those routes collect you resources that you're then trying to funnel into cities.
So both.
Sort of, but no.
Hybrid.
It's much more on the side of route building and resource management than it is on the side of pick up and deliver.
Okay.
The element that crosses into a pick up and deliver nature is going to be the element where both players can exist in the same resource.
Okay.
And both players could steal that resource or utilize it ahead of the other. And so the pick up and deliver nature is fully and solely a competitive element where you don't control any of the resources you have on the map.
Okay.
They're all a little vulnerable. So that's going to be the main board.
Okay.
That is one of the biggest features of this game. You can see It has beautiful tiles, beautiful
Well,
trains,
you can't see,
and it
but-
just starts spreading into a really great way. I encourage you, as you listen to this, swing over to the Kickstarter page. Link always
They'll
on top
have
of the
the
video
beautiful
description. They have
production
all
there,
the
yeah.
all the images, the stuff we're talking about. It's going to be referenced right there. This is to get your interest piqued
Mm-hmm.
and to give you context for someone who has no tie to level 99 games.
I have played Bullet, but that's it.
I mean, like,
Oh, you don't have title.
Yeah.
On it. Oh, okay.
I would like to send you an
Alright.
email at some point, but
I got you.
we're working on it.
I got you.
The other interesting part of this game, outside of that, is going to, and I'd say the most interesting part, is going to
Okay.
be your programming your tableau. You're going to have a board in front of you that has 3 layers deep. And every turn, you decide how far you move your worker down this board.
Okay.
That's going to do some very important things. First off, it's going to determine where you start building your route on the map. Then, as cards begin to escalate, and you start building your tableau or programming your tableau in front of you, you'll also start making choices around when you trade in resources,
Okay.
what resources you spawn on the board, the way you maneuver or hop over the people, the way you recruit new cards to go into your tableau so that you can gain extra bonuses and effects later on in the game system.
Okay.
The main crux of this is that you can never go backwards.
I love that. I've always enjoyed those mechanics in games.
And so you're pushing down this line, sometimes spending your valuable resource,
Right.
your energy to move farther than you naturally would, skip over a few of the locations.
But you can't go back and get it.
And you're also pushing endgame.
Okay.
Every time you
Oh.
get to the end of this path, that's when you get an option to take one powerful action, to deliver your goods, and then to cycle back to the very beginning
Okay.
again. So you've got this little bit of a race. This is the part that it's weird. The route building doesn't feel like a train game to me.
Okay.
It feels like a resource management, a collection game. I mean, you're not even technically needing to build a route.
full route, right.
Because they're magic trains. They're all connected through portals. But this part where the engineer is programming and ramping and saying we need to move faster, we need to go harder, the coffee's coming out, the hot chocolate's being poured,
Sure.
and the
coal's
trains...
going into the magical coal.
Exactly. This tableau part feels like a train game to
Okay.
me. In a way that is very, very separated from what you'd consider a train
Typically
game
consider, yeah.
to be. The other cool thing, and the other thing I want to emphasize, is going to be multiple paths towards victory.
Okay.
There are so many different ways to expand your route, to take advantage of other players' routes, to make dead or hard zones to cross more favorable to you. There's a lot of ways to score victory points depending on what resources you've collected, and if you decide to deliver to a wide variety of locations, or you really focus in on one or two. There's going to be variable player powers based off of your own custom faction's abilities.
I was going to ask that.
And then also cards that you can collect that give you one-time powerful actions, consistent programming actions, and or actions that flip with your character's ability.
So lots of asymmetry, powers, and abilities.
And you can scale in a ton of different ways.
Okay.
So by the end of the game, you could have scored by really focusing on your routes. You could have scored by focusing on your tableau and the way you built up. You could have scored by focusing on endgame scoring abilities and objectives. And all of that is going to be balanced by a heavy resource crunch.
Okay.
You have these little magic gems that sort of demand, everything sort of demands you spend. And so Jan, when we first played, he had like 15 of these. And I never upgraded mine at all. And both of us were still competitive. He was driving endgame by having as much magic gems as possible, by skipping down his track, by delivering. And I was focused on delivering the biggest value load to every different region I could get my hands on. And by the end, we were a turn or two away from both being heavily competitive with the game that we were playing. So that's Imperial.
Okay.
Based off of, an abstract, not in front of us viewpoint.
Right.
Do you have any questions based off of what I've outlined so far?
I have two
Okay.
questions. First off, what is endgame? Can you explain how the game ends?
Endgame is going to be triggered at a point where a certain number of those deliverable locations has been pulled.
Okay.
Like on the player board, you have a location. I believe it's 6. It may be less than that. But after one player has filled up their contract slots, which are endgame scoring, and some of them are more or less resources, that triggers endgame.
Okay, cool. The next question I have is, it sounds like the art is inviting and colorful and exciting looking, and the way you're describing the mechanics sounds like quite a bit, but I'm wondering, like, what's the weight?
Yeah.
What's the weight of this game?
I'd give this 2.8, maybe a 3.
Okay.
It is harder to teach, and it is more fiddly to set up than it might demand on first approach. I haven't been the person to read the rulebook, so I can't speak towards the
quality of the rulebook or anything.
I can speak towards level 99. I know they do quality stuff, but I do know they have a lot of elements and rules and fiddly things. I know there's a full compendium for every ability, card, and sequence, so there's a lot of support there, and I never had a problem running the game, and I didn't have a problem learning the game.
So fairly middleweight, not super hard.
I'd say so. There are expansions that I have not played with that can be included, little modules that start upping the complexity. This game is about that route building, that pattern laying, and the hardest mechanical part of it is going to be understanding the nature of the strategy you've chosen. There are a lot of variable paths, but if you don't know how to dig into one of those, and you don't know how to really start understanding the upgrade cards that you can get and the way those start sequencing and chaining together, you'll be on your back foot for the majority of this game.
Okay.
You definitely won't be able to play it with a gamer who doesn't want to focus on a few turns, doesn't want to focus a few turns ahead of time.
Can't really strategize or think that through.
Programming down that line means you're looking at the line and you're saying, I got to go here, then here, then here. I've got the gems to spend, but I need to gain one more in this location. And then I need to sacrifice something to skip this block so that I can push endgame before he can deliver fire to the Ruby City.
That already sounds cool. Fire to the Ruby City.
That's what you're thinking at the top.
Should have said that earlier. I would have get on my phone and back real quick.
You're thinking 3 to 4 turns ahead throughout the majority of this. Those are not complicated turns, but when you're thinking of 3 or 4 of them all together, it does make for a little bit of a heavier game.
What is the degree of power? When you start the game and when you end the game, how much more are you accomplishing, or how much more are you able to do?
Yeah. So, for instance, when we started the game, I believe we had 3 gems, and by the end, Jan had a pile of them next to him, and every turn he was regurgitating or building more of them.
Right.
For me, I was able to build a sequence that allowed me to move, collect just enough that I needed to move one more time, to sequence an entire row of cards, to flip my player powers ability. I'd say it is a game that maximizes abilities and powers in a way that not a lot of games of its nature do. The reason the tableau building feels so authentic to a heavy, industrialized train engine is that programming feels rigid and feels magical.
It seems magical.
I think the best part of this game are the powers and the abilities.
Right.
Over the
That's
route
what I was
building,
hoping to hear.
over the driving the end game. The map's beautiful and interesting, but if you just gave me a game that was only powers and abilities,
still be all over it.
And all I was doing was scoring abstract victory points,
still
still there.
Yeah.
I'm still there.
Okay.
I
think that's all the questions that I personally have. I'm going to do a little more research and figure out if this is one for me.
Concerns about it. Let me now try to talk you out of it.
Okay.
So, some of the concerns that you're going to have, and by the way, they're only 4K away, and so if, 20 people hear this video and decide that it's a game for them, well, we've done our part.
Yeah.
Some of the concerns you're going to have. It is fiddly to set up. There are a ton of little bits and pieces, tokens that have to go out.
Not really a problem for me as a gamer, but some people should know.
It's still one of those things where you glance at it on the shelf, it's a big box, it's got a lot in it, it organizes and stores very well, but there will be that moment where you think to yourself, do I want to spend the next 10 minutes getting it ready?
Sure.
And that's a factor. Sometimes you don't.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you don't
Setup
choose a game.
is incredibly important.
And it does do its best to facilitate it. It would be a nightmare if it didn't have the game trays inserts and all those extra little bits that Level 99 does. It doesn't mean it's easy.
Right. Absolutely.
Strategically, this isn't a train game. I mean, it looks like one.
Right.
It's got that beautiful cover photo, but it's not a pick up and deliver. This is a Magic Train game. It feels...
I don't know how that's a deterrent for me, but keep talking.
I know. But if people are looking at that cover photo and thinking to themselves, they're expecting something that's much more about pick up and deliver, much more about route building or economic structures, the industrialized train games that a lot of people are familiar with. This isn't that. This is a game where you're working on your kind of programming, your tableau in front of you. This is a game where the train portion of it is really a sequencing of pattern laying and resource management.
Okay.
That's good. I do think it is different from what people expect. and there's room for some disappointment there, depending on what people think they're getting from the box.
So just temper your expectations, figure out what it is and what you're expecting.
Yep.
Before you dive in.
And then outside of that, the only biggest concern will be something that I've already brought up, and it's going to be that the messiness of it. It's one of the reasons I like it. There's so much room to play with the systems you're given. There's so much room to chain and sequence and get powerful cards.
But that doesn't work for everybody.
If you don't like a messy game, if you don't like a game that makes that has your brain thinking on 4 different elements of it at the same time, it's probably not going to be your thing. Like Jan, when he first played it, did not like the game enough to keep it in his collection.
Okay.
It wasn't something. He's not a messy player.
Right.
When I first played it, left going, well, I'm glad you didn't like it enough to keep it in your collection. So I can have it. Yes, 100%. This is a game that is much more in my line of gameplay than it is in someone that likes a little bit more of a dry Euro.
Which it sounds, we have similar tastes. Everything you're saying about it being more of a playground and more messy and not the straight and narrow Euro game is appealing to me, but it's something that everybody should know because it may not be what you want.
Yeah, I think it's a fair concern. Outside of that, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below, but I do encourage you, whether you're backing it or not, swing over and check out the page itself. Level 99 puts out some incredible titles, and I'm excited to see what else they put out. Yeah. I am sure this is going to fund, even though it is down to the wire with only a few hours to go.
But I mean, 100K is no slouch.
No. It's not that the campaign's done poorly.
Right.
It's
just a big goal for a big game.
It's a big goal for a big game.
Yeah.
And
for some big boys.
And I'm wondering if they did a realistic goal.
I'm sure they did.
As opposed to we're going to fund in 15 hours.
Like the games like Tiny Epic Dungeons. Like our goal's $4,000. Like you're gonna hit $1 million, dude. Like, are you kidding me?
I mean, at that point though, you're just kind of going like,
Yeah, let's see if we can be the fastest Kickstarter to fund. Yeah,
we're going. By the way, fan of Game.
Oh, absolutely.
As well.
100%.
That's the biggest video on your channel. Yeah. Maybe not a good idea to attack them.
I love them. I was just saying.
But seriously, I'd even venture to swing over to the Imperial page and see if they mention anything about a realistic funding goal as opposed to not. I'd be curious. I'm not sure.
I mean, it's a reprint, so I have to imagine it is. I mean, they funded once already. They know the game is successful. They know how much money they need to print X copies.
Yep.
I would imagine that it's a realistic goal that they've set, and I hope they hit it. I just might be one of those backers. I'm going to have to do some real hard thinking over the next 12 hours.
What are you still deciding on?
Honestly, just money.
Yeah.
The deluxe, I would want the deluxe edition. And at that point in time, I believe it's $160.
Yep.
Something like that.
Yep.
For that type of game, I want that deluxefication. And at $160, that's a thing I have to debate seriously about.
Yeah.
If it was, it's just a question about price. Honestly, I want to play this game right now.
Yeah.
I want to back it. Just got to decide if I can, if it's feasible.
Yep.
But it makes sense for me as a gamer. But the game itself, super appealing. You've done a good job.
Makes sense as a gamer. Maybe not quite so much as a dad of 7.
Yeah, as a father of 3 with the home. Yeah.
As a newborn in the house as of a month ago.
May not make as much sense, but level 99, if you want me to review it.
Ridiculous. That is not what this video is about. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you're swinging over there to back it, if we've piqued your interest at all, or if we've successfully convinced you that
it's not for you.
Not a game for you. Any of those answers are all right. Are all right. Are
all right. All right.
All right. Auga.
And that's the video.